Hello and welcome to the BSG Trainees Podcast. My name's James Kennedy and I'm a trainee in the Oxford Deanery. Today's guest is Professor Sumita Verma. Professor Verma is Professor in Hepatology at Brighton and Sussex Medical School and Honorary Consultant in Hepatology at Brighton and Sussex University Hospitals. She graduated in medicine from the University of Delhi and trained in gastroenterology and hepatology in Yorkshire. After working as Assistant Professor in Hepatology in the University of Southern California in 2002 to 2004 and Johns Hopkins University in 2006 to 2007, she returned to the UK to take up her position as Senior Lecturer in BSMS in 2007. Professor Verma's clinical interests have spanned the breadth of hepatology during her career, including publishing on neutrophil migration in alcoholic hepatitis, the impact of ethnicity on outcomes in autoimmune hepatitis, and non-invasive diagnosis of chronic liver disease. Her primary research interest, however, remains the elimination of hepatitis C, and her team at Brighton are at the forefront in developing novel, integrated community models for care of harder-to-reach populations. More recently, her team were also awarded an RCP Excellence in Patient Care Award in 2018 for their work on improving symptom burden in advanced cirrhosis and refractory ascites. Welcome to the podcast, Sumita.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
I'd like to kick off, if that's okay with you, if you could just talk us through your route into hepatology. So tell us what inspired you to get into liver medicine.
Okay, so I get asked this question quite a lot. I think it's a good kind of first question to ask. I think generally. So I did my initial training in India, and I think I was a third year medical student, and at that stage I had really had no idea what I would do, and what I'm going to say probably will sound a bit of a cliche, but my first death that I witnessed was a young pregnant woman who turned yellow and had hepatitis. And now I know that it was hepatitis E. And I think since then, my sort of fascination with hepatology uh, happened, and subsequently, I was really lucky to have the opportunity to work with some great hepatologists across three different continents. And that, I think, further fueled my passion and desire for hepatology.
Brilliant. And yes, as you said, you've crossed three continents in your career so far to end up where you are now in Brighton. Talk to us a bit about that journey. How have you found moving institutions internationally so many times?
Well, some of it was planned, some of it was life. Sometimes life happens and you have no idea where you're going to end up. But I always feel that one has to try and make the best of every situation. So my initial training was in India. Then I came to the UK and I did my specialist training, and I worked up north. I did my training, my hepatology transplant training at Leeds at Jimmy's, which was absolutely fantastic. And then I was really blessed to have had the opportunity to work in two fantastic liver units. One was the University of Southern California, and I think everyone there was a who's who of hepatology. Bruce Runyon, Alan Rediker, um, Telfer Reynolds, Neil Kaplowitz. I can go on and on. And then subsequently, I went to Johns Hopkins, which was again really a who's of hepatology. And I think that this working across three different continents really helped me evolve and develop into the person that I am now. Hopkins was very, very tough, very, very challenging, very intense. But I think I came out of it a much better human being, and I think a much better hepatologist.
And then how about that move back to the UK?
So that was again something which I would say wasn't planned. It was more life, because of life reasons that I had to move back. Yes, it was a great change, to move from Johns Hopkins, where we had 50 faculty, to Brighton, where I was the only academic, and it was a real change. So I really had to change, all my research ideas and my research interests, because at Hopkins it was focused on, transplantation and autoimmune hepatitis. But that is fine if you're working in a tertiary unit. But as the solo academic in hepatology at Brighton, I quickly had to change gears and adapt to a new system and a new environment. So it was challenging again, but I think whenever you are faced with challenges, I think it's good, because I think at the end of it, you come out much more evolved and much more complete.
Excellent. And you've highlighted some really big names there in hepatology. Is there anyone that stands out to you as a mentor?
Yes, definitely. The late Telfer Reynolds and Alan Rediker, who's currently 96 years old. Bless him. So he was more like my surrogate father while I was working at USC. I have been in touch with him until about 2 years ago, and I'm hoping that I will be able to be, in touch with him again. So he was a fantastic mentor, and I think he taught me not just hepatology, but he also taught me, humanity, about how, that you are a human being first and a hepatologist second, and to never forget that.
That's brilliant. And now let's talk a bit about your work in Brighton. So, obviously, the development of direct-acting antivirals for hepatitis C has arguably been one of the biggest revolutions of recent time in hepatology and medicine as a whole, and it's really put eradication of hepatitis C in our grasp. Talk to us about the highs and lows of forging integrated community hepatitis C service for Brighton.
Thank you. Yeah, so that has really been my passion, and now I think ever since I came to Brighton, because clearly in Brighton, the deaths from liver disease are probably, I think, one of the highest in the country. Certainly, I think one of the highest in the southeast, and we have a particular problem with both alcohol and hepatitis C, largely because of our demographic profile. It became apparent to me very quickly that the traditional, ivory tower, tertiary hospital or secondary hospital based models would not be working for our patients with hepatitis C, because the vast majority were, highly vulnerable individuals, injecting drug users, the homeless, those who'd been in prison. And clearly we needed more a more personalized model of care based at where they were, because they clearly felt very stigmatized when they came to hospital. So this all actually started way back in 2011, 2012, when we knew that we didn't actually have very effective treatments, but we knew that effective treatments, i.e., DAAs, were on the way. And our plan was to get these models of care set up, so that the minute they arrived, we could hit the ground and run.
And what would you say is your next port of call when hepatitis C is eradicated in the UK? Do you want to roll out your model of care to lower and middle income countries, for example?
So I think, first of all, I think we have to roll out the model nationally, because I think if
Mm.
you look at the data from Public Health England, the vast majority of treatments are still actually happening not in community settings, but in hospital settings. And I think our model has been adopted by other hepatitis C centers nationally, but I think there now the mindset is changing, that if we are to eliminate hepatitis C, then we have to engage with these hard to reach populations, all the low hanging fruit, all the patients who are engaging with us in hospitals have all been treated. We now have about 89,000 out in the community, that we will have to go out and find them, because they will not be coming to us. So once we have achieved hepatitis C elimination um, in our country, then yes, certainly there will be scope to roll out the model to other countries, including low income countries, which unfortunately bear the major burden from hepatitis C.
What would you say the next priorities are for within hepatology for the next 10 years?
So, I mean, from my perspective, my kind of other big uh, area of research is basically improving symptom burden in patients with, I think, end stage liver disease, especially with ascites, because we know that a large proportion of patients who have end stage liver disease are not going to be transplant candidates. And we are very poor at providing end of life care or palliative care to this cohort of patients. So that is my focus now. But I think in the long term, it has to be early detection of liver disease. It has to be community screening for liver disease, because we cannot really go on like this, where the vast majority of patients who are diagnosed with liver disease are when they actually have irreversible cirrhosis, and or they end up in hospital with complications from cirrhosis. So I think the focus, obviously we do have a cohort of patients who have irreversible liver disease, so we have to deal with that. But we have to now act, and we have to start screening for liver disease actively in the community.
Excellent. And a large part of your job is teaching as well. Um, is that something you've loved more and more over time? How much do you tend to get to devote to that nowadays?
So yes, I really do enjoy teaching. I'm quite passionate about it, whether it's a kind of undergraduate or postgraduate teaching, and I've always enjoyed it. And I think my time in the States also helped me develop that further, because in the States the medical students tend to be a lot older and more mature than the medical students here. And and I think it is a real kind of character building exercise for you as a teacher as well when you teach. And for me, teaching has always been a two-way process. I learn from students just like they learn from me. So yes, and I think that there's something really heartwarming about the fact that you are training the next generation of doctors. So that kind of really makes me glow with pride somehow. And it's something that is a very core component of my job plan, and it's something that I would wish to continue in the future as well.
That's really great to hear. You've been awarded in 2018 the RCP Excellence in Patient Care Award for your work on palliative care in liver disease. Would you say that's your proudest achievement to date?
I think there have been so many, proud achievements. So I think it's difficult to single out one. But yes, that was a proud moment. But I think you have to understand that these kind of events it's always a team. So it's not one individual. And as one of my mentors always taught me, that your research is really only as good as your next research fellow that you have. So it was a real team effort, and I have really been blessed to have had a great team ever since I came to Brighton. I've had some real excellent research fellows. Starting with John Potts, then we had Lucia Macken, Ahmed Hashim, Rona McGear. So all really excellent, committed individuals. And I think whatever prize you win, it basically is just a reflection of that team. It's all about teamwork for me.
And how about outside of medicine? What are your loves outside of medicine?
So I love to travel. I love reading, music, cooking, walking. I don't exercise much, probably should exercise a bit more. But yeah, I mean, my life is pretty full, I have to say.
You've got some amazing places to walk around Brighton.
Yes, yes, certainly. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
And what's your favourite thing about living there?
Well, actually, I live more closer to Horsham, but what I do like about Brighton is its vibrancy, its people, um, the overall culture. Um, I mean, it's a great place. The hospital is a great place to work at. The medical school is a great place to be at, and yeah, overall, it's great.
And if you had to pass on one piece of advice for an early career gastroenterology trainee or someone considering applying for the specialty, what would it be?
Gosh, um, am I would say that follow your dreams. You only live once, you know so the world's your oyster. What you don't want is to be on your deathbed saying what if. So if you are passionate about something, then see it through. Don't let failures upset you, or or kill your passion. I think you should see a failure as a stepping stone to success, because unless you fail, you're never going to succeed.
That's really really good advice. We can't really have a conversation right now without talking about COVID-19. What do you think the impacts have been on liver disease in general?
So I think that there has been obviously a direct impact as well as an indirect impact. And the direct impact obviously has been the high mortality rates in patients with liver disease once they develop COVID. And the indirect impact has obviously been the delayed referrals, delayed hospital admissions, patients presenting very late, the surge in alcohol use, etc., etc. So I think it has had overall quite a devastating impact all round. Our patients, we haven't been able to see them face to face. It's sometimes difficult to get a grip on what's going on when you're just talking to them on the phone. We haven't been able to do surveillance for HCC or varicose surveillance. Investigations have been delayed, biopsies have been, there's been such a massive all round impact.
And especially for those hard to reach groups who you mentioned
Absolutely,
earlier.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, because right now we've paused everything for 4 months again,
Mm.
because obviously I had to weigh the risks to the staff when they went out into the community, but our nurses are still keeping in touch with them via phone, so that at least they know there is someone they can talk to. But we are not currently starting any new treatments. Those who are already on hepatitis C treatment, we are continuing, but at least until the end of January, we have put starting any new treatments on hold.
Okay, so that's a huge impact, isn't it?
It is.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Sumita.
Thank you.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and thank you so much for giving up your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you for listening to the British Society of Gastroenterology Trainees Podcast. Please do listen to our other episodes available at www.bsg.org.uk/trainee-podcast on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Pocket Casts. And don't forget to give us a rating and leave a review wherever you listen.